There are four main factors involved in what's called peace building. And when these factors are present, statistically, that means there's going to be a higher incidence of peace and a lower incidence of conflict. And this is true whether it's a corner of an American city or another place in the world. And those factors are greater economic opportunities for women, greater educational opportunities for children, a reduction of violence against women, and an amelioration of unnecessary human despair.
Excuse me, Senator, or excuse me, Congressman, these children are citizens too. And when we have 23.1% children living in poverty in the United States, why is that? Because they don't have financial leverage. They're children. They don't have economic leverage. And therefore, in a world where elections have practically become auctions in our country, then those who have no economic leverage have no political leverage, which means we have an even bigger problem than the fact that children are living in poverty in the United States. We have an even bigger problem about the connection between poverty and the high incarceration rate, particularly for the Black and Latino communities. We have an even bigger problem than the fact that 46 million Americans live in poverty. We have a problem with a direct attack on democracy itself. The economic system in America today is a system of economic tyranny. The economic system that prevails in America today does not just ignore the poor. It does not just turn a blind eye to the poor. There is a systemic war on the poor in America. And there is a reason for that. And that is because the kind of capitalism that is being practiced in America today, an unfettered capitalism with no sense of moral or ethical responsibility to anything beyond its fiduciary responsibility to its stockholders, with no sense of moral or ethical responsibility to the larger stakeholders of the workers and the communities and the environment, needs cheap labor. It needs cheap labor. This isn't a matter of, come on, guys, don't be so greedy. This isn't a matter of, come on, guys, don't be so selfish. This is a matter of us standing up and recognizing in America, we don't do aristocracy. This is the United States of America, and because it's the United States of America, that means that anyone who is a citizen, whether they are rich or they are poor, whether they are old or whether they are young, theoretically has the rights to the same opportunities that everybody else does. Therefore, if we are a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people, unless, excuse me, we're changing the contract socially, as we seem to be, into a country of a few of the people, by a few of the people, for a few of the people.
In terms of the Department of Peace, Franklin Roosevelt said we need to do more than end wars. We need to end the beginnings of all wars. Just like with health and sickness, you don't just treat sickness, you learn to cultivate health. And we need to not just, drop bombs and put people in prison when there is conflict. We need to learn to prevent conflict. We need to learn to proactively create peace. So just like they play war games, we need to play peace games. Just like we have a military academy, we need to have a peace academy. Just like we have an army of military personnel, we need armies of peace builders. And we need to have that same kind of serious focus and resources placed in creating peace that we now have on fighting wars. This forever war machine that the United States has is a path to disaster in this century.
Other generations before us have done big things. Other generations have abolished slavery. Other generations have given women suffrage. Other generations have dismantled segregation and white supremacy in the American South. Let us not forget, we are not the first generation who has had to push back against assaults on our democratic values, push back against unfettered, unethical capitalism, and had to push back against deep human values. Let's just not be the first generation to wimp out and not do the job. And it goes without saying, that's why I'm running for president.
Flint is just the tip of the iceberg. We have an administration that has gutted the Clean Water Act. We have communities, particularly communities of color and disadvantaged communities all over this country who are suffering from environmental injustice. If you think any of this wonkiness is going to deal with this dark psychic force of the collectivized hatred that this president is bringing up in this country, then I'm afraid that the Democrats are going to see some very dark days. We need to say it like it is. It's bigger than Flint. It's all over this country. It's particularly people of color. It's particularly people who do not have the money to fight back. And if the Democrats don't start saying it, then why would those people feel that they're there for us? And if those people don't feel it, they won't vote for us, and Donald Trump will win.
Marianne Williamson became the most Googled candidate in part because she said stuff like this.
If you think any of this wonkiness is going to deal with this dark psychic force of the collectivized hatred that this president is bringing up in this country, then I'm afraid that the Democrats are going to see some very dark days. As of today, am a candidate for the office of President of the United States. Some people in this city just don't even seem to care. Some people in this city, with some very grave exceptions, apparently don't have the spine or the moral courage to fix it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me in there. I will. And we know that this country is plagued by many challenges now, not the least of which is hatred and division, which is greater than any of us have experienced in our national life. And it is our job to create a vision of justice and love that is so powerful that it will override the forces of hatred and injustice and fear.
People would get legitimately elected.
Biden's Democratic challengers have called for debate. Why is he not debating?
And then they would try to do away with elections.
Does the Florida party then effectively canceling the Democratic primary also constitute voter suppression?
And do away with opposition.
President Biden is the Democratic nominee.
That's your nominee, baby. That's how it works.
And do away with a free press.
I can't speak to that. Why not?
The administration, which is much separate from the DNC.
You have to speak to the campaign or the DNC.
February of this year, the DNC passed a unanimous resolution to support President Joe Biden.
I know that might not sound democratic.
And there's no primary on our side.
I'm not surprised by this, but it's very disingenuous.
Somebody with those tendencies, those dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies.
Well, there's a primary, but the key to it is the fact that we've already endorsed President Biden.
Would be like, oh, okay, we're going to shut this down.
That is the game.
Does the White House have any thoughts on I can't those voters being? I can't speak to that.
They didn't usually telegraph that.
Is it the Hatch Act, or you're talking about 2024 election. You're talking about a primary. I'm just not going to speak to that from here.
My advice to my Republican friends: focus on your circus. We got ours.
Peace building. And internationally, there are 4 factors which, when present, indicate that there will be a higher incidence of peace and a lower incidence of violence. Expanded economic opportunities for women, expanded educational opportunities for children, reduction of violence against women, and amelioration of unnecessary human suffering.
With this country, ladies and gentlemen, we repudiated aristocracy, and it is time for us to repudiate it again.